Welcome. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie O'Hara-Krebs. I am the social media editor for Portal Libraries in the Academy. And today I'm pleased to welcome Mark Lenker, Teaching and Learning Librarian at UNLV, to speak about his feature, Thoughts on Synthesizing Information, a Research Skill for Our Time. This article can be found on Portal's preprint site in Volume 25, Issue 3. And this article is free to read, and viewers may access the article by navigating to the Johns Hopkins Press preprint site for Portal. Thank you so much, Mark, for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you could just take a moment, tell us what was the inspiration or your motivation for this research topic?
Great. I undertook this research topic because I feel like there's a lot of potential for people to develop their skills in research synthesis. And I say that because of personal experience. Like we were talking about earlier, Katie, I wrote this when I just finished the manuscript for my first book. And over the course of working on that and getting ready to work on that, I found that I was getting better at synthesizing information. I had done some reading to prep myself for it because it's my first book. Some things that really helped were On Writing Well by William Zinsser, and a book on note-taking called How to Take Smart Notes by an author named Sanka Ahrens. And both really stress the idea of taking information and putting it in your own words so that you can then pull it together with other ideas that you're pulling from other sources. And after working with them and then doing a lot of note-taking on lots of different subjects, I found that I was getting better at working with an article or a book and analyzing it and pulling meaning from it, and then putting the meaning in its own package in my own words, and then comparing and contrasting those packages in my writing. So I was getting better at synthesis, and I was doing the work for the book mostly in 2023, 2024. So at the time I was 50, 51 years old. If I was getting better at synthesis, think about our students, right? Tons of potential there. So that was a really big motivation. And also kind of along the way, over the years of teaching, I'd done some things for teaching the technique behind the literature review in terms of coming up with thematic categories to organize a review. Also, I talked with early career students about trusting sources and how the most trustworthy sources won't use sources that all agree with each other, because then you start thinking, maybe I'm being railroaded into thinking one way or the other. Instead, you want to look for a diverse synthesis. So synthesis just kept coming up in my own work and in my teaching, and I had an opportunity to share a lot of those thoughts in this article.
Yeah, that is great. I love that you use, from your own kind of growth and building on your own research. This kind of came out, and you're looking at it from how you can share it with students that you encounter every day in your libraries. So that's wonderful.
That's the way I love to use my writing, chance to reflect.
That is great. That is great. So I wonder if you could give us just a brief summary of the article for those out there who haven't read the article yet. So
Certainly. So there is a study of synthesis and information literacy by Casey Lundstrom and colleagues, came out in 2015, and they wanted to analyze student work using a rubric, and they found that there was not a rubric out there. So they pulled one together from various sources, synthesis again, right? But they came up with a great list of criteria for seeing how well students did with synthesis. And I basically stole those criteria as my framework for the things I wanted to talk about with synthesis. So their criteria were variety of sources, uh, using sources effectively, um, organizing sources meaningfully, and then identifying conversations among sources, and finally analyzing sources to learn something new. So that's kind of the general framework. And I used each of those criteria as a chance for me to reflect on my own experiences. So when it comes to a variety of sources, uh, the more I do this, the more I feel like synthesizing information from different formats is less important. So you're familiar with the classic prompt to write a paper using 3 scholarly sources and 3 popular sources.
Yes.
I think it's important to move beyond that to actual perspectives on a question. So how would the perspective of an academic researcher differ from the perspective of an actual stakeholder in the problem? Or how would it differ from, say, a fan versus somebody in the industry related to an issue? I think if we want to challenge our students to develop a really good understanding of what they're researching, we need to move in that direction. And yeah, Jane Hammonds at Ohio State, their information literacy workshop series online, there was a great session on that. So maybe readers would want to check that out. I think it's a really productive direction for the profession to think about. So that was my thoughts on a variety of sources. When it comes to using information effectively, I think there's potential for us in higher ed, maybe not just the libraries, but in higher ed, to work with students on their research note-taking strategies, because that's where students pull in the ideas and get them ready for use in their own work. But a lot of the students I've talked to haven't really done any formal training with note-taking since middle school. And the game has changed since middle school. I mean, we're in college now. So I think there's a lot of potential there. In terms of organizing sources meaningfully, I've tried a fun exercise with students where I print out a bunch of headlines from the New York Times and cut them up and ask students to get in groups and organize the headlines by theme. It's something we both have fun with. Like a headline, there's enough information for you to get a sense of what it's about and maybe be able to organize it, but you don't have to wade through the whole article to do it, you know? So it's something easy to do in a class period. In terms of organizing conversations or identifying conversations among sources, the Writing Center at North Carolina State University has a really good handout on the synthesis matrix. So, you know, you got your sources all in a row and then your themes in another row, or a column, I guess. And then you plug in and see who is talking about what, where they disagree. And once you've done that, you look and see where the gaps are, things that haven't been covered but need to be covered by future researchers. I think that handout's been out for like 10 years or so. You have to kind of scrounge around to find it, but it's really good. So email me if you want it. And then finally, for analyzing sources to learn something new, what I had there was really just kind of a question that haunts me all the time. So I work mostly with students in their first and second year undergraduate experiences. And I wonder how good a job I do at leading them to sources that they can actually pull meaning from. I feel like there's pressure to use scholarly journal articles, but how well do they understand those, you know? I feel like it's a mixed experience, and maybe we need to talk more about working with magazine sources and newspaper sources. to help them really build their understanding before they tackle those scholarly sources. So yeah, that's how I ran through the excellent criteria that Casey Lundstrom and her team provided.
That is great. And I really appreciate you have given us some source material as well for all of those who have read the article to continue and, with the extension of how to bring this not only into our students' lives, but into, maybe some of our lives as well, and getting more adept at synthesizing and organizing this information. So
It really makes a difference if you think about it. It's kind of tempting to think it's something that happens automatically, but no, you can improve.
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we might have hit it, but I do wonder what is a takeaway or a big idea that you would like Portal readers to gain when reading your article?
Um, so you probably heard how information literacy isn't necessarily just a library skill, but something that all of higher ed needs to work on. I think research synthesis works in very much the same way. I mean, it is an aspect of using information, so it does fall within the information literacy purview, but it's also about learning to read and write. So it's also got to be important to composition instructors and our colleagues in the writing center. So I'd love for us to be able to all get together and talk about how we're supporting students with research synthesis, especially, and then figure out how we can all work together and contribute to do it well. So I think one of the areas where librarians can really help might be getting more involved in teaching note-taking techniques. We work with abstracts and summaries all the time. We write them too. We describe things. So I think we got something to share in terms of taking complicated information and coming up with a workable description of what it's about.
That
So
is
that's my
great.
hope for the future.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I really, yeah, I appreciate these like new ideas, the ways that we can help. And we can work not only as librarians but across higher education to really get our students thinking about information as and information literacy skills. So thank you. Anything
Yeah,
anything else you'd like to share with us today?
there is something else.
Oh, great.
So I'm lucky enough to be one of the feature editors at Portal. So I want to encourage our viewers today to think about submitting their work for one of Portal's features. The feature articles are usually a little bit shorter than the full research articles, maybe in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 5,000 words. They usually engage with the scholarly literature on whatever topic you're delving into, but it doesn't have to be as extensive as in a formal literature review. So it can be a nice way to ease into scholarly publishing. Portal has 3 features that we do each issue. One is global perspectives, and I've pulled some things from the editors to kind of give a quick description here. So the big questions that come up for global perspectives are, what's happening in other places that we need to learn about in North America when it comes to academic libraries? How can we work together to support librarianship globally as a community? And then, yeah, how can we work together to prepare for the future as research becomes more of a global, international process? By working together, we can do a lot better for our users. So topics along those lines would be a really good fit for global perspectives. I do reports from the field. That's basically about, think of it like problem solving in academic libraries, but I'm interested in hearing your stories from any stage of the problem, whether you're just starting to find words for the problem, kind of like what I was doing in the synthesis piece, or if you've come up with a great solution that you want to share. Yeah, I'm a pretty easy sell. So if there's anything kind of interesting and new you want to talk about, let's be in touch. And we also have the worth noting feature, which the editor has described as a bridge between news and research when it comes to academic libraries. So talking about new developments, maybe it's a new initiative that you've tried, or maybe it's a trend that you've identified that you want to learn about some more and then share what you learned with the readers. So please do keep that in mind. You can reach out to our editor-in-chief, Elisa Stern-Cahoy, for her advice, or any of us editors. You can find us on the website at Portal. But yeah, it's probably the favorite thing I've done in terms of my professional service, is being an editor for the features.
That is wonderful. And I appreciate, yeah, I was going to say, it's always good for those who are watching or reading Portal to realize that, it could be accessible, it's accessible to them as well. And just to kind of start to have the conversation about any of your research ideas, or, things that are happening in your work world that might be of, interest to Portal readers and all of us in the libraries community. So
Yeah, maybe it's something you're just starting out with. Maybe you did a really good conference presentation and that conference doesn't have a proceedings. Think about converting it into a feature. It's kind of a building block onto, bigger and better things with your research.
yeah. Well, thank you for that reminder for all of our viewers. Mark, I really appreciate it. I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. And I want to remind our viewers that they can read your article again free via the Johns Hopkins Press preprint site for Portal. Thank you for making the time. I hope that, a lot of readers really learn from your wonderful article. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
That's so kind, Katie. Thank you for this opportunity. I had a good time.
Great, thanks. Until we all meet again, please keep an eye out for our next author interview. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you.